Growing up, if you had sent me on an errand, I would go. But if I'm being honest, it was really about the change that I got to keep afterward. I loved doing chores as a little girl, or I was told at least. And I remember how I would climb on a stool to assist my older sister to wash the dishes then, so that I can play around the water and rub my hands in the soap and inhale the scent of the soap. I think that was just really the reason why I was so excited washing the dishes back then. But then I think something as curious as that turned into an expectation. I'd hear things like, send her instead, she would handle it well. Tell her to do this, she's very good at it. Which is supposed to look like a compliment, but wasn't at first, because it felt like pressure to me. And I wasn't the only child, no. But knowing that I could handle a chore well was something that turned out to be a sentence every single time. And the more I spoke on about it, the more I was told I was complaining. And somewhere inside of me felt that if I didn't speak out, it would actually become something that would be normal. I remember several occasions where I would ask myself, why am I the only one that is being sent to this? I'm not the only child. As someone that is a middle child, what they really say about middle children is not something I agree on. I never related to what the people had to say about this position, the forgotten one or the peacemaker. That didn't match with my own stereotype. Going out with friends, for instance, was something that was not even discussed, especially as a girl. And back then, I used to label it as strict. All I did was describe it as over-parenting. But the thing I realized now is that when we add the word over to parenting or over to any kind of word, it is just us exaggerating how good something is, which is how it's actually supposed to be. Now, the fact that I was measured as someone who is meticulous shaped the person who I am today. I realized that my parents were not just over-parenting. My dad didn't mean to be strict. He was only building a fence and not a wall. And there is a difference. Younger me would have understood why I was the only one, or most times, being the one to call to do some certain chores. And younger me wouldn't have understood why I wasn't allowed to go out with friends or visit people. But now I see that parents have a different way in how they train their children, and sometimes it's from how they grow up. They didn't even study how to train us. It just happened that they just train us according to what they think is best. Some parents train their children to handle challenges themselves, while some handpick the challenges that they want their children to go through and the ones they don't want them to go through. Then some don't even allow their children to face any sort of challenges at all. So each and every one of these upbringing, one way or the other, would actually help us in a certain way. It took me years to realize this, but my parents did not mean to harm me, and I had to forgive them, not because they did anything wrong, but their intentions about how they raised me was something that became clear. And that brings me to the point which I say, have a close relationship with your parents, because they're the ones that truly care about how you turn out to be in the future. Secondly, going to church doesn't quantify that you have a relationship with God. For instance, the church I grew up in was loud. Literally loud, like drums pounding, keyboard riffs sliding between songs, laughter breaking mid-service, like it was like a static on a radio. There were comedy sketches built into the program. There were moments where the pastor would drop a punchline and I would see people spring up from their seats, jump on the pastor, or probably spray money on the pastor. That was something normal. Growing up as a young girl, I think I was old enough to know that where I was in a church, but I was very little then. So that was normal to me. Naturally, when I saw churches on TV, I would curl my lips, like thinking to myself, what is happening? There are no laughs, just straight up preaching from the beginning to the end. One time when I visited my aunt, she took us to a church, and then all I did was just stare at the clock waiting for it to be over, because there were so many crowds of people seated still in the congregation, and there was nothing being done except the pastor preaching. There was no entertainment, there was no breaks for comedy, there was no breaks for performance, or probably a dance performance or something, at least something. There was nothing like that. And then I was wondering to myself, isn't this punishment? Isn't this boring? But that's the part that scares me, knowing that all I knew about church was just the good music, the music being played that I knew of, good comedies, good laughs, good preaching of the word. And sometimes, even when something is being preached and I don't like the topic about it, it wasn't a good service to me. So today, I think there's still churches that exist like that. And even knowing that I would pray in the name of Jesus and not even know who I'm calling upon, it's just something sad, because now that name is real to me. Even when I read the Bible, I have this enthusiastic feeling when I'm reading it, knowing that this is not just about some history. It's not just some stories, some 4G old stories that are just told so that we can have a knowledge about. It became alive. The word of God now is beyond words to me. It's like a mystery that would help me grow into this faith journey. And then before I became sustained, when I gave my life to Christ, I gave my life as sustained. So before I turned 16, life as a Christian was just a facade. It was just practice. It wasn't real. So going to church every day is not something that quantifies that you really know God. You need to know God for yourself. You need to accept Jesus as your Lord and your Savior. You need to be baptized by your choice, not even because your parents did that when you were born. The third point is university is not about freedom. It's a place that determines whether your future will be made or broken. When I was about 9, 10, 11, nobody could pin me down on what I wanted to become in the future, because to me, it wasn't something serious. I would even say at once that I wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a pharmacist. All these things I just said out of probably what I saw in movies, but it never really meant them, because I wasn't thinking about my future then. And being someone that was not allowed to go out so often, all I wanted was to be free from doing the chores, finally make friends, finally do what I want to do without the fear of being watched or controlled. But then, like I said, I met Jesus at the year 16, and that was the year I got into university. I got into university when I was 16 years old. At first, I still had the intentions to be free a little bit, going to the hostel very late, spend some time outside, talk with a lot of people, meet new people, old, young, just do things as I wanted to do. But then I realized that God really knew what he was doing, because if I didn't know God before I entered the university, things would have turned out for me differently, which is sad, because that's not just the same story for everybody. Not everybody met God before they entered university, and things turned out differently for them. So as a girl at that age range, I didn't really think seriously about my life, but what I thought about seriously, what I was obsessing about, was the freedom that I would get. I would always count down the days when I was in secondary school when I would finally be a university girl. Oh my God. It felt like that was going to be the beginning of my own life, that I would be someone that my parents' rules would not reach out to me. I would be free from their control and their side on me. There's just a grace to my story, because the friendship I wanted to have, the communication, the community I wanted to have, turned out to be something with direction this time around, because the grace to my story is that I met Jesus. And so that 16-year-old me who wanted to live aimlessly turned out to be a girl with direction this time around. And so this is just to say that your university days count down to your years of being someone. So when you enter university, between the course of these years, you have that time to figure out who you want to be. And for me, the constant need to put myself out there started to be building myself indoors. The crave to do things that I wanted wasn't there anymore. I began to do things as God wanted. I began to join the fellowship. I began to be a worker. I began to find purpose in life. I began to see that there are a lot of things in life than just me doing what I want with myself. There's a bigger purpose on why I was born. So for some people, it's unfortunate that they didn't find such things like this, because they come, they do whatever they like. So even being expelled or suspended, it's just so crazy. It's sad, but that's just the reality. I used to think that growth happens out there in the noise while living life. You get to learn by yourself. But the truth is, the real growth happens when you realize where you're heading. It happens when you are indoor, building yourself, when no one sees you, when no one is clapping for you. That's where the real growth happens, not out there. Because a lot of people that you would meet in university, not everybody was trained like you. You'll meet a lot of people with characters that are not so good. They are negative, they are positive, and then it's a huge field. If you don't tend to know where you're heading towards, you can fall into the wrong company, which creates a pathway for destruction. My fourth point is, during your university years or as you grow up, they tend to say that you would lose friends, but try to cultivate friendships. Because yes, this is the period whereby friendship will slip away, probably from distance or when people find their own path and travel or move somewhere. You will tend to lose some people, but at the same time, wherever you find yourself, try to cultivate friendship. Because during my university days, there were friends that I met, and those friends, we built a lot of good moments. There are times that we would spend time watching movies together, we would study when it's time for exams, or I would even take them individually to do a Bible study with me. We're such good friends that sometimes when they come to meet me in the room to pick me up for classes, we would dress alike. On the one occasion, we wore all black shirts and all brown skirts. It was so funny because we didn't realize that we got to class. I didn't know that I was putting on black and they were putting on black. It was just something we didn't plan. It happened beautifully, and we didn't realize until we got to class and we said, "Oh, you're wearing black." They started pointing fingers at one another, noticing that we wore the same thing, which we all laughed at. But along the way, I began to lose that friendship because I felt like as I continued to work with God, and when I realized that they were not also on that spiritual path with me, I started to take myself away from them, which many would think is good. But at the same time, looking back, I feel like it would have been better if I still carried them along with me to God, rather than dropping them along the way because I felt like they were not heading the same path with me spiritually. At least they had other traits that were good enough for me to still leave them, to still hang around with them. They were girls with good character, they were girls with good behavior, they were girls with good morals, they were smart girls. But at the same time, I just felt like this spiritual journey is something I want to take seriously, and therefore I can do it alone. I started to even think that I could do life on my own, and the sweet thing about it is that they never stop coming to my room every morning to pick me up for class. That's how. So I lost that bond because now it's not as it used to be. But this is just for you to cultivate your friendships. When you meet good people, cherish them for who they are. Don't tend to isolate yourself. Being close to God should not replace the need of having people in your life. That's just a lie, because the enemy likes to isolate people. Don't be isolated. Grow with people. Even if they're not there where you'd probably are headed, you can take them there. Not forcefully, but just naturally. The fifth thing I realized is people who live a certain way, a wayward life, if you trace it down to the root, you see that it is from trauma, it's from confusion, it's from pain, and then you tend to now give them grace. As you grow up, you might not really think deeply about why people behave they behave, especially when they are not as good as you. And what I learned right now is you should give people grace because they have been through something that you probably cannot relate with. And the way it turned out for them, they turned out to be bad. They allowed it to get control over them. And this is just to say that you should judge people less and be more empathetic, be more concerned for them. Tend to forgive people. Another point is school is not a scam. School is an institution that grooms people. For instance, when I got into university, taking care of myself wasn't something that I thought would be difficult, but it was. When I got into university, right from the admission process, my dad held my hands. From registration to getting admission, my dad went with me. Even when I got a room in the hostel, my dad was in the girls' hostel with me in the reception, waiting for me to be given a room that I would like. So I didn't think it would be that difficult, but something happened. First of all, I was worried about being in a room with people because one, I don't know them. Two, they might have some characters that I would not like to deal with. And knowing my kind of person, I would not even take it lightly with them when something I don't like happens. On one occasion, we were chased out of our room because of something happened. They needed to fix something. But then they didn't care about where we'd end up going to next. So it was one morning we were forced to take all our luggages from the room. Imagine the luggages I bought, a lot of them, from the room. And then I had to squat with someone in another hostel. It was just so very heartbreaking. I remember crying so much that night when I called my dad and told him that disheartening thing that happened. Even the cause of carrying my bags, my phone fell and crashed. The screen guard broke. I started to even think, if all this happened in just the first 2 months of me being here, how much the 4 years? Thinking about it made me so happy. I cried till I slept. I was upset. I was sad because if my parents were here, things would not have turned out that way. They would have taken care of it. But that's the thing school does. You tend to now know how to take care of yourself. You waking up every morning would be something you would take seriously because you don't want to brush your teeth well. You want to have a very good bath. So somebody will not end up calling you stink when you 8th class. Or people will not want to run away from you because that will break you. So institution is not a place that determines if you'll be successful in life or not. It's just like a structure that helps you, that molds you, that impacts you on being a successful person. But it takes you and your vision to be a successful person. And that thing is, a lot of people admire romance on movies. Oh my god, right now, I think the world is so hypersexual that they tend to love romantic movies more, romantic novels, romantic books, romantic journals, romantic this, romantic that. But the thing is, we forget that these things are being acted. They're intentionally crafted in the mind. Sometimes it's based on what we even desire and we craft in the movies. But in reality, what we desire determines real work, real hard work, deliberately, intentionally making it how we desire. I can easily craft up something in my mind. I can easily imagine a good love story of a man and a woman. But then in reality, they have to deliberately work towards their relationship for them to have a good relationship. So the romance you see in movies, it's not real. It's acting. Remember that. So that you will not end up desiring love, which is good, but not knowing how to go about it. If not, you are going to be getting a lot of heartbreaks. It just ruins people right there. It ruins their self-esteem. Honestly, don't do that. Get to know what love is. Learn about love. There's something my pastor now says. He says people go to school to study for almost their life, but they don't study about marriage, which is their mistake for failure. Study about love, what love is. Study even from the Bible, from good authors, from counselors, before you get into one. And yes, people find love in school from their young teen years. But they don't know it's love. All they know is that they are friends with someone. They don't automatically call it love. They grow into it. Your authenticity should be a trend to you. That's the only trend that should matter to you. Not the trend of what someone else is doing. Be your real self. I think as someone, for me, that grew up being indoors, I'm not allowed to go out. I'm not allowed to do what other people are doing. Even it was easy for me to be able to be in an environment in the university because I'm not somebody that can be easily influenced. I don't really care about the trendy things like that. Till now, even if I go to a store to pick a shoe or a cloth or a dress I want to sew and it's looking beautiful in my eyes, my mom and my sister would beg to disagree because to them it's called old fashion. They want something trendy for me, but that's not really what I really like to focus my mind on. I like to be myself. I love what I love. I don't love what you love. Be yourself, because opening up your heart to other people's opinions about how you should do things, especially things that are left for you to do, you would always want to please what people would say. You are opening the room for oppression, depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, all those things. That's where they come from. The ninth thing I would like to discuss is please mind what you say, because whatever you say will shape what you become in the future. Yes, there's sometimes that even in school, somebody cracks a joke and then from there we pick it and start saying it even from home. For instance, when you go to school and then hear your friends say this bad word, you go home and you make sure that mom is like, don't you dare repeat that word in my house. That's the same way people learn characters, words from someone else, especially in a gathering. They tend to say it often. and then somehow along the way it happens to them. Then later they blame God for it happening. It's just that the problems we face sometimes comes from what we declared from childhood. Most times they are good, most times they are not. My mom told me of a story of a friend, a classmate back then, that would always say that she would marry a white man. I think a Korean man to be precise. And when he met up a few years later, the woman actually told her that she got married to a white man. So she literally confessed that it happened. Lastly, enjoy your growth process. Do not rush into being adulthood. Trust me, adulthood is not something that is so much fun because you are left from being pampered to you figuring out how to even pamper yourself. That's even if you have the opportunity to, because you will not always get the opportunity to be pampered. You will now have to be taking care of yourself. There is nobody now that would want to look after you as you grow. Your parents will love you from afar, but you are facing your life now. So enjoy the pampering, enjoy the taking care of, enjoy all those things that you can enjoy right now, because as you grow, life is going to be more serious. Adulthood is not scary. It's just that you don't need to dodge those processes as you go, because that is what will shape you into being into adulthood. So don't rush the process of growing into adulthood. That's not how it's done. You can wish to be an adult. It's okay to wish it. I mean, I'm sure you have your reasons why, but nah, that's what I would tell my younger self. Girl, chill.